Oh, I don't know, but y'all are throwing me off my game. I try to be so good about that. We don't have any viewers though, so it's okay. However, just before the hangout, I got a message on our Facebook page asking how she could be a part of the conversation. So I just said, well, if you want to try to join the conversation tonight, here's the link and we can talk about the process later. So don't kill me.
Okay.
Hi, Georgette.
Hi, Michelle. Hey, Randy. Hey,
Hey.
Venita.
Hi, Georgette.
I'm coming on the conversation talking about murder already. No.
Yeah, well, I was
What's
just saying,
that?
just before I came on, I got a message from someone asking how she could join the conversation. She said she had come across our group researching medical apartheid.
Oh, okay.
And so I said, well, here's the link if you want to join us tonight, and we can talk about the process later.
Okay.
So I don't
Well,
know. I know it's not what we said. I know it's not what we said. But,
well, we just play it by ear. It's
but
okay.
y'all saw how hard I was put out a casting call and
Yes.
Yeah, yeah.
all that, and folks just don't want to act right. So we'll see.
It's
And I
been
figured
Yeah.
we're really well. We're on chapter 4 and 5, but we're less than 100 pages into the book, so you know.
Yeah.
Oh,
If
Okay.
somebody wants to catch up, they can.
Yeah, and the chapters aren't that thick, not like some of the books we've read, so they can
Yeah,
do it.
Yeah, Georgette. This is good reading right here.
and they're pretty independent. You don't really have to know what's in the previous chapter to grasp
That's
the
true.
current
Yes.
chapter,
Yeah.
so that's good.
Where's Joel tonight?
Mhm.
Coming?
Oh, yeah, he's supposed to show up here.
Oh, good. And Kim? Kim coming tonight, Michelle? You heard from Kim?
I have not heard anything from Kim.
I feel like she said something last time about not coming, or maybe
Oh, is that maybe why she couldn't do the?
I feel like there was something.
Maybe that's why she didn't sign up to do the facilitation.
I just feel like she said something about it.
Okay.
Mm, I don't remember. I know she didn't want the day, but I don't remember why she said so.
Okay. Well, Nicole is not going to be here tonight, and so she and Randy switched days.
Okay, okay.
Um, all of which is reflected on the new schedule that I published today. So you should have that. So I don't know, Randy. I mean, I think we can get started whenever you want because, you know, we don't know about Kim and
Okay.
Joel is doing whatever he does. So,
Okay. Well, I will. All right. I'm just looking for. Oh, never mind. I found it. Okay. Hello, everyone, and welcome to session 6 of the Global Black Feminist Reading Circle. My name is Randie Henderson, and I am one of the co-hosts of this online group. This session runs from February 2nd to June 7th, 2016. Our reading selection this session is When and Where I Enter, The Impact of Black Women on Race and Sex in America by Paula J. Giddings. Our book group meets each Tuesday evening from 6:30 to 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on the Google Plus Hangouts on Air platform. You may find the Global Black Feminist Reader Circle on Google Plus, YouTube, and Facebook. And always feel free to join us in reading our story together. I like that. Okay, so starting with Georgette. On my screen is Georgette, Michelle, and Venita. Can we go in order and introduce ourselves?
Okay, hello everyone. My name is Georgette Moses, and I'm participating from good old Columbia, South Carolina.
Mhm.
welcome.
Okay.
Michelle.
Hello, everyone. I'm Michelle Odom. I am joining the Hangout tonight from Brooklyn, New York. And I just want to put up my entrance fee to the Hangout, which is proof that we have a copy of the book. And I actually have the 2006 copy of When and Where I Enter, but we're all doing something a little bit different this time because for some reason it's kind of difficult to get your hands on the newest 2007 version. Anyway, that's it.
Venita.
My name is Venita Walker, Goins Walker. I'm joining you from Cromwell, Connecticut. Welcome.
And this is my book. Everybody can see this really. Can y'all see that?
Yes, that's what mine looks like.
What
But
is
it's in the
that?
other
Let me
room.
see.
Let me see that. I haven't seen those.
It's.
Yeah, that's what I have.
I took the
Oh.
cover. I took it off. This. Hold up.
Oh,
She's got the hardcover.
and I have this one.
This is.
Okay.
That one too.
Oh,
I have that one. I have that one also.
Yeah.
And it's that's the one I was telling you is signed by Paula Giddings, so I'm gonna keep it. That's
It's actually.
the 1984 original version.
I got it from the library.
okay.
Okay.
Yeah, I got mine from a used bookstore online. So that's what the jacket looks like. I didn't know. It just came without a jacket. A dust jacket.
And
Yeah,
Joelle.
I didn't want any fees.
Hey, how's everybody?
Hey.
Hi.
Hey, how's everybody? How's everybody doing?
Good.
We
Go
are
ahead
doing
and
our
introduce yourself.
introductions. Who are
Okay.
you?
Oh, I'm Joel Jones from Charleston, South Carolina. Everybody voted out there. Randie, you voted.
Yeah.
You vote for Donald. Okay,
Oh,
good.
I
Now,
see.
I
Okay.
did vote.
Oh, look, your button is cute. We just had the regular I voted
Yeah.
blue button. It's all tired, but hey, it means something.
Mikey got 2 stickers because the guy was so happy a black man was voting.
Oh no.
Really?
Oh
So
my
he got 2
gosh.
stickers.
Oh my
No,
goodness.
we had a bunch of people, bunch of black men vote were in Charleston.
That's
That's
not
all it
enough.
was.
That's-
Yeah, I know.
Mm.
I know.
Hmm.
Well, Joel, did you say where you're from? Did you introduce yourself?
Yes, Joel Jones from Charleston, South Carolina. Glad to be here.
Thank you. Kim just said she's having problems getting in.
Oh,
Oh.
really?
I'm gonna send her the link. She asked me to. It's on the page though, but I'll do it. 1 second. Link to the Hangout.
Okay.
Hmm.
Okay. 1 second. Okay. Okay. So as y'all can see on the agenda, I didn't put a summary. It was really hard trying to summarize these 2 chapters. So instead of BSing, I was just like, let's just answer the questions. It was really
Okay.
I really enjoyed these 2 chapters. At first, I thought I had got it easy because chapter 4 was so short. I was like, oh, and then I checked the schedule and I realized there were 2 chapters. I was like, oh Lord, always a catch. But no, I really enjoyed these 2 chapters, and so I highlighted the ones I really wanted us to answer in red, at least the first few words, just in case we didn't have time to get through everything. So, Michelle, could you please?
Well,
See it?
yeah. You want me to do the first part?
Yes, please.
Okay. Chapter 4, Prelude to a Movement. Point A. By the 1800s, the
Oh
first...
no. I'm sorry. Just the ones that are red.
Oh, okay. Point B. The late 19th century was described by Columbia University historian Richard Hofstadter as a time of rapid expansion, desperate competition, and peremptory rejection of failure. It was a society that pulled the old tripwire of white elevation and black degradation. But this time there were new forces to contend with. Both blacks and women had gone pretty far to be pulled down so easily. And now, the powers that be would also have to deal with the restiveness of a poor immigrant population, which was beginning to get a hand on the levers of city government, and a white middle class who were becoming increasingly unhappy that 7/8 of the country's wealth was being concentrated in the hands of 1/8 of the population. This time, a rationale backed by scientific reason was sorely needed to explain and justify why the rich, the poor, blacks, and women should remain in their allotted places. Although Charles Darwin's conclusions in The Origin of Species, 1859, were intended to refer to the animal kingdom, his ideas about the survival of the fittest afforded social scientists that rationale. The titans of industry were supposed to be on top because they were superior species, the thinking went. Conversely, the poor deserved to be poor, and if they died from poverty, they deserved that too. Giving them government aid could destroy society, for it would corrupt the natural laws of evolution, the survival of the fittest. Question 2. Why do you think that whiteness and/or the titans of industry would rather claim inferiority than provide quality access and resources to the poor, blacks, immigrants, and women to better the overall economy and country? Well, I'm noticing we have one viewer, so I'm thinking that's probably Kim still not able to get in.
Hey, Kim.
Hey, Kim, if that's you, check the private page on Facebook for the link into the Hangout. On question 2, I guess I would say, why do you think that whiteness and/or titans of industry would rather claim inferiority?
And I mean inferiority of people, not like, I should say like superiority, but I meant inferiority of.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Greed. Greed is the first thing that strikes me. And of course, they always need a justification to mask the greed, because naked greed it's ugly, is distasteful, and there's a good chance that it's going to generate a backlash. If you just come all out straight up front with it. So they've always got to come up with various justifications to hide what is just greed. Hi, Kim.
Oh my God, I probably got it. Hi, everybody. I heard you saying hi. Thank you.
Hey, Kim.
Hi.
Go on and tell us who you are.
I'm Kim Brandon, and I'm in New York, and I'm glad to be here.
Glad you made it in. We're on question 2, Kim.
Oh, okay. Oh, thank you. Oh, you just let me get the agenda up. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. I can read the next question. I'm not ready to read the question yet.
Okay. Randie, are you still with us?
No, I am. Kim is just. It's good to see you, Kim. Did anybody else want to answer the question? Mr. Michelle, I wasn't sure, Michelle, if you were done.
I'm done.
Okay. Anybody else?
Well, to piggyback on what Michelle said, when that terminology "titans of industry" makes me reflect on the History Channel series where they were talking about the men who made America, and they were just basically greedy, selfish white guys with an opportunity who didn't care anything about the environment or the people they had to destroy to make money. So that might be, indicative of the whole attitude of the people. Oh, I have mine, and damn the rest of the country or the people or these black people who think, who have some rights on paper, but we're not really going to let them be equal to us, because then what will we built ourselves up by creating this distance, justifying it with pseudoscience and anything else we can, collaborate together, religion and everything else. So, uh, why would I want the country to be a beautiful socialist place, where everybody's successful and surviving and thriving, when and I'm speaking as, these white guys, when I see that their success might mean I have to lose some of mine and I want everything. So, yeah, that's pretty much how I took that passage.
And if I may, I think today people, of course, they still have the same attitude when you look at one of the, if you listen to the reasons why people didn't want the Affordable Health Care Act, I've heard people say, if everybody get health care, our health care is going to diminish because everybody be wanting health care, and the same thing with the political situation that you have right now is that everybody can vote. They go around gerrymandering the districts and things like this here, diluting your voting power in different districts all over the country. And henceforth, this is why you have a Donald Trump, as going to be the Republican and might be our president of the United States.
Will you stop saying that, please?
I'm sorry. I just want everybody to know how real that crap might be.
Enough with the
real. Y'all don't want me to keep it 100?
Oh, give me 50%.
50%? Okay, all right.
Thank you. Anybody else before we move on?
Yes. I believe that white folks or corporate and otherwise are just afraid of us. We've always been super intelligent, and they know that. So they're afraid of the competition. So they have no choice but to diminish us and find ways to diminish us. Because they know that if we're able to get in those circles and have healthy competition, then they'll be in some serious trouble. I think it's greed, but I also think it's just fear. Because we're brilliant like that. I don't think it's a field that we've ever endeavored that we haven't been superior in those fields. Whether it's science, whether it's journalism, you name it, we got it that tight. And they actually are afraid of us. Very much so. And fear always creates craziness. Because craziness comes from insecurity. So.
That was deep. Thank
you. Yeah, and also I'd say to the point Georgette was making, that there has always been in this country this lack of appreciation for what other people bring to the table. Like Venita and I were talking about in our other group recently, the Revolutionary Love series, that one aspect of love is is recognizing and acknowledging the connections that we have to other people, and and having a certain considerateness to how your behavior affects others. And so there's this arrogance in white men that has been nurtured. It's been nurtured by all of these scientific theories, justifications and whatnot that have been used to bolster the sort of divide and conquer strategy that goes on here. But out of that, they don't understand. They don't understand or value or acknowledge or appreciate the contributions of other people. And so, we're now in this age where so many jobs that human beings have done are being assigned to robots. And you can almost see the coming of a new world where, there will be very little need for actual human labor. But when I picture that world, it's a horrible place. I don't want to live in a world where human beings are not inventing things and solving problems and creating music and art and literature and all of that. But when you don't value those things, when you don't think they're worthy, then then I guess you can get into a mind frame that says, well, if we can figure out a way to eliminate people, it's okay. I mean, there's a lot of talk that there are just too many people on the planet. And and people with resources are doing their best to figure out what to do about that. So
that's true.
Thank you. Kim, since you volunteered,
I can hear you now, Rich.
you hear me?
Hello?
Can you hear me?
Yeah, okay. That
you.
was my fault. I had turned off my speaker because I thought I was echoing. Okay.
I was like, Lord, not tonight. Kim, we're going based off of the ones that are highlighted red first. So can you go ahead and read C? Question.
Already possessed of a hedonistic state of mind, the white man in the South, noted W.J. Cash, had the repulsive suspicion that he might be slipping into bestiality. White men had good reason for that suspicion. Lynching, always a fixture in the South, had turned more gruesome when, with the end of slavery, the majority of its victims became black rather than white, and the images of blacks changed from that of children to dangerous animals. Now there was an evident need to dismember, to castrate, to even fight over body parts to take home for souvenirs. Racial hostility was especially focused on African Americans who had made substantial economic gains in the post-war period. gains now being checked by the South's counter-revolution, the eclipse of the Freedmen's Bureau, and later the Depression of 1893. The situation worsened as black communities became havens for drugs. Cocaine was popular even then. Crime and prostitution, often with the complicity of white authorities. All of these things added to the pressures of black family life, which were exacerbated by black migrations to the cities, both southern and northern. Between 1890 and 1910, as many as 200,000 blacks left the soil that had borne so much of their blood and tears. Blacks were beleaguered. The black family was under siege. Hedonistic, engaged in the pursuit of pleasure, sensuality, and self-indulgence. What do you think, number 3, what do you think was the catalyst, turning point for the increase in brutality and some may even argue sexual pleasure whites experience when murdering black people by lynching, dismemberment, castration, fighting over body parts? Does the reasoning seem deeper than black people's increasing success? I'll pass. I'll come back to that. That's a lot to take in.
Yeah, that's a deep question.
I was trying to be like you, Georgette.
Oh,
Trying to write a question.
Randy.
Trying to write a question you would write.
Yeah, I think you did it. That is wow. Because when I read that, I could think about, well, that's the question of the hour, of the century, of the millennium, man. What is wrong with these people? What was wrong with them then? What's wrong with them now? You know, why are they still doing this crazy stuff? Is it self-hate? Did they just refuse to release, the person who was under their thumb legally, and now, just any old thing, if they have to lie and make it up, then this one person that they caught and who can't get away is going to pay for all the imagined affronts to their racial pride, the sanctity of white womanhood, or whatever they want to call it, or just because he had enough get up and go, as my mom would say, to get some people together, get a grocery store for his people on his side of the tracks, and make some money. Okay, then you got to get jealous, and now you're going to hang everybody because they're not buying from the white guy in town who was probably ripping them off, charging them extra, and giving them less. I don't know. It's psychologically. I haven't had psychology. Someone who's had it probably could think of a whole lot of terms to describe what's wrong with a people who, or just groups of persons who put all that's wrong with them and embody it in someone else. And then what are they doing? Exercising some kind of, I don't know, catharsis. You're really the rotten person, but you're going to say, oh, it's so and so, and I'm going to beat it and burn it and boil it and cut it up and take a tooth home to show it to my friend.
We got it.
Okay. All right, I'm off
some
that.
Jeffrey Dahmer shit there.
Well, the description in the passage, it was kind of like that, wasn't it?
Mm-hmm.
Very horrible. Very horrible.
If I may, the part that really got to me, and this goes beyond all the rest of the sick, is that the school children have been given a holiday.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
The school children have been given a holiday so they could witness the burning. Really? And you wonder why it's perpetual, why the sickness goes on and on. Could you imagine school children standing around witnessing that? So not they were beyond sick to me. I mean, that goes way past, you know.
Sociopath.
Yeah, something
That's,
yeah,
that's
very
the word.
very evil about that. It's past mental illness. This is something very evil. It's innate. You know, I mean, Satan lives. Got a lot of brothers and sisters.
Was that I'm a witness, Randy? Was that I'm a witness?
With
But
Randy
you know,
walking out of the way, she said, "Oh, what you got going over there, Randy?"
I
but
went to school with somebody who said that hell is a prison. So if hell is a prison, then and Satan can't be in it because you can't get out of prison. So like once you in there, you in it. So he is among us.
Oh yeah.
Within this earth.
And
but you
believe
know,
that.
this kind of remind me. I think back to the '90s when I was in Desert Storm, and we something come over the wire, and we reading this crap, and then next thing you know, it's on CNN. But these crazy ass white boys out of Fort Bragg, they bring back dead Iraqi bodies for souvenirs.
Yeah.
You understand what I'm saying? I was like, what the hell? And they bringing them back on our aircraft, you know? And so you think about that kind of stuff, what makes a person, because you have to worry about that in war all the time, what people do, and we have this problem when we have people, when we're in war. I notice it in different times that I was, temporary duty in the desert, on peacekeeping missions and humanitarians and war support, where it seemed like the further we get away from the continental United States, these damn guys seem like they go batshit crazy. Excuse my language. I mean, they be doing all kind of stuff, and we have to send them back. They almost cause an international incident. So you're like, what's wrong? They wasn't hugged from the age from birth to 2. They say if you don't hug people, you don't get nurtured between the time they're born and 2 years old. That one psychiatrist told me, she said, I can tell you that they're going to be a sociopath. So I think that all these guys, they find each other. You know what I mean? And it's going to start doing crazy stuff. But it's most definitely something that's beyond. I think they're just sociopaths, a lot of
That I don't know if this is true, but it makes me think about the image of the Indians scalping
Yeah.
scalping the white people, or that that at least is the propaganda that they have put out. And so I don't know if there's something about war that the kinds of atrocious things that you do in war seem to require that you dehumanize the other in order to be able to do it, in order to be able to kill them, in order to be able to drop drones on villages of women and children. You've got to be thinking something that makes that okay. And so I guess to take it a step further, if you then desecrate or the body or dismember the body, take souvenirs of the body, you're telling yourself subconsciously, this is not the body part of another human being. This is the
exactly.
body part of that enemy, that other, that thing that had to be destroyed.
But you know what? And that's very interesting. But going back to the Indian, the white man actually scalped the Indian to bring the scalps back to prove that they killed the Indian so they can get paid for it. So that's where that came from. And the Indians just doing it back to them. So that's where that came from. A lot of people think that the Indian did it first. No, they didn't do it first. So they started that shit, that sick stuff. But anyway.
So maybe that's why I don't think Michelle, it's interesting that you said that, the humanizing of a human, so you can make it okay. Well,
Mhm.
maybe that's why little white kids go around killing up their parents because they're dehumanized. Maybe that's
Mhm.
why they go around shooting up children in school because it's been passed down that these aren't no humans. Maybe I guess they didn't think it would turn on them though, because you know maybe that's why.
Well, and in terms of the modern era, I think with all of this, the violence on TV, the movies, the video games, and all of that,
Mhm.
that it seems to take people, disconnect people from reality. So we just shooting, 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 and and we don't know if it's a, a figure on a screen or a human being.
But
I
and
don't know.
and
Um,
the, go ahead. I'm
I'm
sorry.
sorry.
No, go ahead.
Go
I
ahead,
don't know
Venita.
if that'd be the case. Excuse me, Joel. I don't know if that be the case because little white kids been killing up their parents way before video games came out. Uh, and a lot, my children play video games. A lot of children play video games. But they know the difference between.
Well, did your children get hugged between 0 and 2?
No, nobody have those kids between 0 and 2, Michelle. I didn't think so. Not at all. Stop laughing, Randy. They don't get no hugs over here. No.
Yeah, I bet. You was hugging your son just the other night.
I
He was
sure
sitting in your,
was.
he was sitting in your damn lap.
Yeah, no, I'm not gonna lie, Joe. Yes, he was.
Shit.
No, but seriously though, it really is something really bad going on. I don't think it's just mental instability or dehumanizing. I think it's something that's really deeper. I really do believe it's something deeper, like evil, just evil.
But and then it kind of makes it, yeah. Everybody see um that picture a little kid drew the other day with a Ku Klux Klansman lynching a black person, and then they had a cop, and everybody went crazy over it. It was on CNN or something like this here, and he was just really depicting the two different eras. They had the Klansmen on one side, killing blacks, and then they had the artwork of a policeman doing the same thing. So the lynching has just went from one place to the other. I mean, you got just as many black people dying from the hands of cops than you do, and well, not quite as many, but they had about 20,000 between 1900 and 1930 of lynchings and stuff of black folk. But you have the same type of violence done by the majority of white folk still done to black folk. So I think it's a human condition which has really leaked over to people of color, because we've somehow or another start picking up these habits of mass killing and learn how to kill. Like I said before, I read somewhere, sooner or later the victim will start being the one to start victimizing people as well. So it's most definitely a learned behavior, how to be unhuman.
Mm-hmm.
Mhm. And yeah, and I'd rather think of it, Vanita, as a learned behavior than evil. Which is not to say,
And some people are evil.
which is
Okay.
right, which is not to say that some people are not evil or that evil does not exist. I don't know,
Mm-hmm.
but to the extent that it is learned behavior, then that leads us down a path of, how can it be unlearned or how can we prevent it, versus evil, which you just kind of so you got to throw your hands in there and say, it's on God, this God's fight, you know. So,
Well, I mean,
Uh,
evil can be a learned behavior. I mean,
yeah.
I believe
Oh
that
yeah.
evil can be a learned behavior. And I
Oh
think
yeah.
people are learning how to be evil, how to not consider, like you said, what they do and how it affects the other person, how they treat other people. Yeah, you're right. It could be learned. I didn't mean in a biblical way, in the godlike way, but no, I believe that. Okay, Randy, now that we've been scared you to death.
Yes, I actually wanted to answer the question, but
Okay.
I'll do it really quickly. I I do think that it's something deeper than increasing success. I honestly believe that it is like a sexual pleasure, very primal sexual pleasure, only because mainly because y'all know I talk about my IS all the time. I did it on lynchings, and for one of my sources, I used Without Sanctuary, which is a book of like all the lynchings ever photographed,
Oh my
including
God.
postcards. And that book was like a really great resource for me. But the details in these lynchings, there's one lynching where this man is, I don't even know how he was still standing. This is right before they burned him. There were literally like whip lashes everywhere, like everywhere there was flesh, there was like whip lashes. So and they were open, like they were very, and this is like a black and white photo, and it was still very detailed. And so and then they still castrated him, right? They still like castrated him, and they're still burning him, and they have all these people out, and they're not looking scared or shocked or anything. They just came down, like from this high, they're just sitting, like it's so like stoic, just no type of emotion, period. So I don't know if like when you do something like that as a person, if that type of like mental or like spirit thing transcends through generations. Like is that your karma? Because these white boys, here, shooting up high schools, elementary schools, movie theaters, like you can't go nowhere with white people. You can't. I don't know if that's like us on a spiritual level. I'm trying to figure out if that's just like that like demon, honestly, like following this generation because they never like confessed to sin or got any help. And I also do believe that it's the sexual thing, because when we went to this bridal show, like right when we first got engaged, this old white guy, he had to be in his 70s. They were selling pots, and he stops Mikey. Mikey's like 6'3", 248 pounds. He's a big guy. And he stops me. He grabs his arm, and he's like, "You are so big." Like I can't explain it. This man was infatuated with him. Like it was just like this awe about how big Mikey was. And Mike he was like, "Yeah." He was like, "Do you play football?" He was like, "No, I'm just this big, And it was really,
Creepy.
really awkward. It was really creepy. And his sons are standing next to him. They don't know what to do because it's awkward. He's rubbing on Mikey's arm. Like he was just so fascinated. It was really weird. And so I think that it's definitely sexual. Hi. I think that it's definitely sexual. It's a sexual attraction that they can't explain, which is why they so
He was hitting
damn
on
crazy.
he was hitting on your man, and you was right
Yeah, he just wasn't that old white guy that old white guy at the bridal show who was so fascinated by how big you were. It was
He said, "What you
weird.
telling that story for?"
Mikey was trying to forget.
He's trying to forget it. He's still having nightmares about it. Baby, what's wrong with you? Oh, that white man back in my dreams.
Yeah.
It was really weird. Anyway, I also wanted to mention, I forgot to write the question for this. I meant to write the question. Did y'all catch how she said cocaine was still a problem?
Yes.
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 What? I was like,
That stuff came over from your boy that was in the tower back in England, didn't it? That opiate.
crazy.
Yes.
It's not going nowhere. Like it just shows like this war on drugs. Wars end. We watched the first episode of The Wire. It's like the other day.
Really?
And the guy, I know, we had never seen it. We're gonna catch
I
up.
love
But,
it.
I heard it's like the best show on TV ever be on TV. But the guy made a comment like wars end. This is not like this. Cocaine's been around since 1890.
Yeah.
Crazy. I did not know that. I did not know that at all. I thought it was definitely like a Reagan Clinton thing, but not like a
Yeah,
not like a
Well, you see,
1800.
Nostradamus was on that cocoa leaf too. I mean,
Oh,
that's where
that
he had most of
explains some
his.
things.
That's where he had most of his damn visions from.
Yep.
Who?
Yes.
Nostradamus. He was up in that tower.
That's crazy. I can get because that's a plant, but like
I could see a lot of stuff. I was high like that all the time too. Yeah.
Not so bad. Not bad.
I will move on if nobody has anything else. I'll read the next
I did want to say one thing.
Okay.
I read somewhere that rape is more about power than it is sexual, and that the aphrodisiac is the power, the ability to oppress someone to the point that it builds something beastly in you. And given that, so when you look at some of the pictures of lynching and you see that they brought out the fried chicken and the pop, and they had a picnic, and then the next morning you get up and you go to church and you take those same children that you took to a lynching to go and sit in the house of the Lord. Who then is your God?
There is a short story that James Baldwin wrote. I cannot believe I forgot this. Y'all just made me think about it. It's called Man-Child, I think. It's one of those. Anyway, basically the man is like, there's this white guy who's with his wife. He's unable to get it up because he can't, whatever. But then he starts to think about this lynching he just saw, and where all the kids and people went, and he's able to perform now. And so James Baldwin was one of the first authors I read that like actually insinuated that white men get off on this power and these lynchings of these black male bodies, because in this short, the black man was also castrated, and it's just crazy. And they're like holding it up and they're cheering, and it's so disturbing. And so white, it just seems like, I don't know, like if that's like a inherently white thing or a taught thing. I don't know. Just made me think about it with you saying that about power.
I want to read that story.
Wow.
I don't
Good.
want to read that. I don't want to read that.
It was a good, and it was
Why do you be going to all these dark places, Randy? What's up?
Well, that was the class. The class was James Baldwin and Toni Morrison. Michelle read about it in my personal statement. I mentioned it there, but okay. Chapter 5, Defending Our Name. Question E. Fannie Barrier Williams, for example, had been born to a middle-class family in Brockport, New York, was a graduate of the New England Conservatory of Music, the first woman to be appointed to Chicago's Women's Club. However, she did not hesitate to confront the issue that white women rarely discussed in public. I regret the necessity of speaking of the moral question of our women, she began, but the morality of our home life has been commented so disparagingly and meanly that we are placed in the unfortunate position of being defenders of our name. Echoing the sentiments of Wells, Williams went on to tell the group that the onus of sexual immortality did not rest on black women, but on the white men who continued to harass them. While many women in the audience were fantasizing about black rapists, she implied, black women were actually suffering at the hands of white ones. If white women were so concerned about morality, then they ought to take measures to help protect black women. I do not want to disturb the serenity of this conference by suggesting why this protection is needed and the kind of man against who it is needed, Williams threatened. By implying that white men were the real culprits, Williams attacked not only the myth of black promiscuity, but the notion that women themselves were wholly responsible for their own victimization. Question 5. Did you hoop and holler at the necessary shade Fannie Barrier Williams threw? When you imagine the reactions of the white women, what do you see?
It was good.
First of all, I had to read that. I said, this lady do not care today. She was just like, And another thing.
Yeah.
Like what? It's like it was so fun to read. I was like, look at her. Because they thought that they had chosen this very perfect, respectable black woman to speak at this conference, and she's just like, that's fine. This is what I have to say. So I thought it was very powerful that she used that platform to do that, because she's a speaker that they scheduled in. You know, they handpicked her. They gave her this allotted time, so she's up there until she's done. And I just thought that was very powerful. And I'm just imagining like white women clutching their pearls and just losing it because of what she said. It was so funny. It was so. I really enjoyed that part of the chapter.
Randie,
Mhm.
I was so elated. I called Michelle on the phone. Didn't I, Michelle? I called Michelle on the phone. I said, "Girl," girl was like, "Bam, Shay, bam." I was just so really, it was orgasmic. I'm gonna be honest.
Oh my God.
Pardon the pun.
Yes.
Don't be using my word.
And I would not know that, but girl, it was good. I called Michelle. I said, "Michelle, girl, this is good." And I was like, I felt so, because she's so real, and plus the white woman, I could just picture them sitting there with their, they know their husbands are whoremongers. That's an old Southern term, mind you. My grandmother used to use whoremongers. And they know they ain't no good, that is nasty. And they sit there still trying to act like the perfect little ladies, as Randy said, clutching their pearls. And how dare this black woman get up here and say this, And I just thought, it was just so, I'm sorry, it was just this the best thing I read. Girl, that was good.
Mhm.
Yes, I just felt so,
Well,
black women have told it like it is for a long time, Randy. This is not new. We just, bam, just like that. It was good. Okay.
I just can imagine her just smiling in people's faces,
Yes.
and shaking her hand, and then she gets on stage and she's like, "Bam! This is what I have to say about your men." It was so funny. I was like, this lady do not care today. She don't care.
She had nothing.
well, here's how I picture the white women.
Right. Yes.
Get her down from here. Get her down from here. Oh,
I bet you they didn't invite her ass back.
Yeah, I was looking to see what they would if they had what happened to her after she spoke. Okay.
Probably lynched her ass.
No, I know, because they couldn't then, because she had let it all out, So they couldn't do anything but sit there and take it. That's all they could do. I love it.
It was really great.
Oh, wow. Okay.
I had the funny feeling that the white women had to come out of their fantasies first to catch up to what she was saying. They're sitting there fantasizing about black men now. And oh wait, well, huh?
She told all the secrets.
Oh, Kim, don't make me holler, girl. Don't do it, Kim. Lord have mercy.
Yeah, it was great.
And they're not blind. They know what's going on.
They do. Like in the next paragraph, she was like, the women knew that their husbands were attacking, or in some cases, I guess, having consensual affairs with black women, and they preferred that over them having affairs with white women because they feel like their husbands will come back. I was like, that sounds like a white woman thing. That sounds like, something white women do. But I was just like, that's really messed up.
It is messed up.
It's an understatement, but so that's sick to like know your husband. I could just imagine this like big white man with his boots, his wife, even and doing like really horrible things just to come home and she knows all about it because they all know all about it.
Yeah.
And just trying to understand, or not understand, but like, what if white women advocated for black women? How powerful that would that be? You know, like if they really did that, that would have possibly stopped centuries of abuse. If they really like felt like black women were humane, you know, they believed in people. And what type of power could they have over their spouses and their brothers if they spoke up?
But you know what? And that's interesting. But they can't stand up for black women until they stand up for themselves, because they still are one of the biggest section of women that are abused are white women by white men, especially in South Carolina and in the South. So you can't expect an abused person to stand up for anybody unless they stand up for themselves. So that's why they
Right.
had not stepped forward for black women or I was talking to Georgette
Anybody.
earlier about, they talking about the glass ceiling. They're not going to get equality until they pull up white women or lower class women from the bottom that's working at as CNAs and at Walmart and any place else, because they get a little position themselves.
Hmm.
That's interesting.
Mm.
I agree.
Mm.
Anybody else want to answer that question? Give a feedback?
Well, I think you brought up something that I thought too when I read the question was, well, what could they have done? Well, if they were actually, well, if you want to try to oversimplify the problem and say, well, it was because the men were sexually frustrated. How could they be? They were trying to get it everywhere they could. But and say, well, if the white wife had been more welcoming of her husband in the bed, which when I read anecdotal period pieces here and there, this is the complaint, however valid it is or non-valid, of the white man is, oh, my wife, I need to keep her pristine. We're only going to conjugate to create children, but and so is this a problem between the man treating his wife as a whole human being and then her accepting it, her sexual desires, and trying to be a whole human being instead of pretending to be this little goddess that he wants you to be on a pedestal, and just be two human beings interacting together and try to, okay, I see you shaking your head, Joelle.
Everybody is.
It's not coming out. It's not coming out right. It's not.
No, I understand what you.
But if it's purely a sexual problem, because I'm thinking about how the black women in Africa stopped their village, the fighting between those two factions by withholding sex. But see, the white women were already withholding sex, so
Mhm.
that couldn't, using sexuality couldn't have helped because they were already restrained by the Victorian mores, trying to
Mhm.
pretend to be English when they're not. You're American and English, you would think of you as little secondhand cousins anyway. But that's what they're grasping after. But how, so they were focused on doing things morally to help, but
I think
I just couldn't see it. I
I
just
just
couldn't see
believe
what they could have done.
I just believe that when things like that happen, you trying to introduce power over someone else. I remember someone said, I saw somewhere where, if we give the blacks or black men the same equality as we have, what power then would we have over our women? You know what I mean? Why would they want to continue to be with us when he got the same job as we have, when he is and he's better at this than we are? I think that I think they may have had less power in the bedroom with their own women, who wouldn't do those kinky things they wanted done. So they exercised the power, as Kim said, over the black woman because they just plain could. You know, they just could. And I think that's why they did it. They had no repercussions. Even if they go out and rape black women, and just take it, nobody would do anything. You know, nobody would do anything. And so I think they just did it because it was just plain power.
Well, I think we read somewhere at one point, I forgot what we were reading. There was a white woman that actually, bringing a black child or a young girl to her husband.
At the dark end of the street.
Yeah, I tried to forget that, Venita. Come on, man. Jesus, why you bring that? Why you rip the scab off of that one again?
No, I don't want to forget that. I always want to remember that. Things you should not forget, and I want to remember that.
Okay.
As painful as it is, I do want to remember that. But yes, there's something really bad that was going on and still is going on with that.
Mm-hmm.
I often wonder when you look at sex between white men who have power in those days and black women who had no power, isn't all of it rape? I don't understand when people say, oh, this was rape and these were his mistresses and stuff. But I think the mistress, that relationship was based on power or him providing food for her. So I don't see that as a sexual partnership. I see it still as a power over somebody else's body, which is rape.
Yeah, I guess I see that.
Yep.
And that was that one woman, she said, what was last week or the week before last, where there was one woman that the master wanted her to submit willingly, and she wouldn't do it and wouldn't do it and wouldn't do it until he figured out, what was her bottom line. And once he figured out the power over her, then she submitted. So I'm saying all this to say that black women had such unbelievable libidos that they just wanted so much sex. A lot of it was to save their life, or to save their man's life, or the black man's life, or to save their children. I just,
that's true.
So.
So what I'm hearing is from everyone is that this was a power trip, right?
Yes.
So and it brings me back to my question: well, what in the world could this white woman, who was supposed to be on this pedestal, do to pull up anybody when she herself was also the victim of rape? When her husband, oh, it's time, we need some sons up in here, And
He was glad he was going
what could
somewhere.
she do? Well, yeah, I'm sure she was. She probably really was. And she couldn't complain to her father because they were like, no, I married you to him because we need this.
We need these
we
three
need these
pigs he
connections.
gave us.
Just wow.
I
Because they was
don't
getting
think
married at 12 years old.
Mm.
Remember, they was getting married, they was like, as soon as they started having their cycle, they was being pawned off,
Yeah.
Yeah. My grandmother, she was married at 12, and my father was born at 13. Yep. It wasn't rape.
Yeah.
But did anyone have anything else to say about that last question? Kind of sort of hit on the one that's next, based off what George about, like, what could white women really do? But we can still
Well,
answer.
it's 7:44, and I do want us to save a few minutes to do the find the feminism, because we didn't get to do it last week. So
Okay. Well, we can go down to H and answer the 8th question. Michelle, could you read that one? Question 8.
Okay. H. The dispute between Wells and Willard in England intensified the mean campaign against Wells in the American press. A Memphis paper suggested that she be tied to a stake and branded with an iron. The New York Times ran an article insisting that black men were prone to rape, and that Wells was a slanderous and nasty-minded mulattress who was looking for more income than outcome. The vitriolic assaults from so many directions began to offend the British sense of fair play, Wells wrote. The critical overkill proved Wells's contentions better than she herself could. It is idle for men to say that the conditions which Miss Wells describes do not exist, a British editor wrote. Whites of America may not think so. British Christianity does, and all the scurrility of the American press won't alter the facts. With help from her detractors, Wells's British tour was a personal triumph and in the end had a great impact on the anti-lynching campaign. English opinion had also broken the silence of many prominent American leaders. No longer could they afford to ignore the talented schoolmarm. And yes, even Frances Willard eventually lent their names in support of the campaign. Wells's success also had an even more direct impact. The number of lynchings decreased in 1893 and continued to do so thereafter. The decline in the murders can be directly attributed to the efforts of Ida B. Wells. Ida Wells Barnett should have been pleased. Her anti-lynching campaign had not only helped to launch the modern civil rights movement, but it had brought black women into the forefront of the struggle for black women's rights. Question 8. Did you notice similarities in success between Wells's and Martin Luther King Jr.'s nonviolent, firm, and factual approach? Both of their successes are eras apart, but both succeeded because whiteness can be counted on to always react violently. Do you agree? And by the end of this chapter, we learn Ida B. Wells directly attributed to the decline in lynchings and also welcomed a baby introduced via Harriet Tubman. Do you think her efforts are widely recognized today or granted the praise they deserve? No, I did not draw a link between the approaches of Wells and King. And I guess I'm going to have to say no. I do not agree that whiteness can always be counted on to react violently. And always is the word that I'm reacting to. Certainly we know there is a lot of white violence. But, you know, I think we have to also acknowledge, no matter how small the number, the white people who do try to live on the earth in a humane way.
Small, Michelle?
Well, you know, I don't know the numbers. You know, what I do know is we have a lot of examples of white violence, and we've talked about some of them tonight. And this is a drop in the bucket to what we've actually experienced here. So it's understandable to me how black people, because I've been in that place myself, can start to see all white people as the problem And, but I think that we have to resist that kind of stereotyping if we want to resist becoming the thing that we say we hate.
I believe that actually that these type of people are a fraction, but I think they make the most noise. The violent ones. I think they're the ones that I think that good black and white folk, they sit back in silence while these people do evil. You know,
Yeah, but
I think that's what happens.
we're talking about a chapter
Right.
where we've seen an example of men, women, and children standing around watching a man being burned alive, body parts pulled off, pieces of his body taken as souvenirs, the school closed down, the public transportation was taking in train loads of folk to the event. We're not just talking about a fraction
Well,
of the
I look at
community.
things. I look at things like this here. When you have someone that have enough power to make trains move, and it wasn't poor people that, and I guess the white folk that wasn't participating saying, you know what, these people are crazy. I better shut up and go to this crap. They're gonna hang. You know what I mean? I think that's what happens to people in the. I'm thinking the mob mentality. You know what I
Hmm.
mean? That people get caught up in that because truly the children didn't have any, or the little white teachers and everything like this here. They was, I think what happened to people when evil things go on and they know the right thing to do, they just stand there.
Hmm.
They show that all the time in scientific experiments. How many people that don't have anything to do with anything, they just don't do anything because people are we're basically cowards,
Yeah.
and we let the bully do the bullying, So
Yeah.
I think a lot of times, this is just my opinion. I think a lot, and now don't get me wrong, there's some evil people out there doing some things, but I think a lot of people just didn't want to participate, or this is the way it is, son. This is the way life is, and he's weak, and his son is saying, "But Dad, they're humans too." But don't do anything because Mr. John is gonna, he holds the mortgage.
Hmm. Hmm.
I thank you, Michelle. I didn't notice like a direct connection between her and MLK. I don't think in terms of I don't think Ida B. Wells actively like knew that these women were going to react the way they did, and that the American press would. I mean, I'm sure she assumed that this would happen because she's used to this by now. But like MLK, like knew that if they were nonviolent on TV, and that he knew like police would react and government would react violently, then this would cause people to pull at people's heartstrings.
Hmm.
There's a scene in. Have y'all all seen Selma? We've all seen Selma, right?
I've
Hmm.
seen
There's
it.
the scene where he's talking to young John Lewis and the other guy that had problems, young black guy, and he was asking him, "Do you think that this sheriff is Bull Connor or the other one that was a little bit more humane when they were traveling?" Which is why that tour didn't go so well when they were trying to, create some civil rights. And he said he's like Bull Connor, and Bull Connor was crazy. He was out of his mind, and so I think that I like that in the end, Ida B. Wells didn't have to go out and, call these women out, nor do I think she would have. I don't think that was her character, but she didn't have to hit below the belt or like say, or add to that like the hate in the press and the violence in the press, and they were like Ida B. Wells should be strung up and burned with an iron. Like, why is that your first thought when it comes to somebody disagreeing with you, basically? So I thought that those two methods of like just being like nonviolent and sticking to the facts of what it is brought about that type of violence or reaction so that Ida B. Wells could be believed. So that made the people she was trying to convince believe her. So that's the connection. I was reading too much into it. I thought it was.
No, no, I'm glad that you saw that and brought it to our attention. Speaking of which, I'm quite sure that Ida B. Wells does not have the recognition that she deserves. Um, and that's just a consequence of um, the the society that we live in. We're not going to learn about how a black woman uh, was able to persuade English elites to, cast an eye of condemnation on the white American behavior. We're not going to learn about that in our public school systems. And we're not going to learn about it when we turn on our TVs and go to the movies. Unless we're into some real esoteric, you know, uh, niche market. Um, but it's our work to do. It's our work to do. So.
Anybody else before we get to Michelle's favorite question?
I think that I love your question, and I like the idea of finding ways to give Ida B. Wells her praise. So that's something that I really would like to consider, how to get her name out there more, because I learned more about her than I knew before from this particular book. But the other thing was in terms of all white people, I do have just take a little bit of exception, because I think that when you put everybody in the bucket, it's like Michelle said, that we can stereotype everybody. And then the last thing is that in the book it also said that blacks and Eastern European immigrants were dangerous to society. So they grouped together at that time the Jewish people. And so then there was one point where Irish were lower than blacks. So how people got white and what white actually means in different decades and centuries is a moving target. And then within that, you have people who, have some humanist ways in that race. So it's a lot to consider, but I do find it hard to kind of keep balance myself. And sometimes I want to just kind of group everybody together, and then other times I can kind of see the forest from the trees.
Mm-hmm. Good point.
I think in times like those, we have to be around other people other than ourselves. And I tell everybody all the time, every time I want to hate white people, one of them come along and fuck it up. I think, and that happens all the time because you just can't, lose hope that people are not good. You know what I mean? Not everybody is like this, and this is the only way that I can not, like Michelle say, put everybody in the same bucket. You know what I mean? That's the only way. Because if you concentrate a lot on what we learned in the past, and you look around you and you see all this crap happening around you, you tend to forget. It's always amazing to me why we want to concentrate on Second Amendment rights, but soon as someone of color or people of different beliefs or different genders start speaking of what they want, then we want to shut down the First Amendment rights. And that's what I see more happening in today's politics and today's temperature when it comes to the majority of white folk now than anything else,
I think I was in my feelings when I wrote that question. I was definitely like, all white people think.
Well, there was a lot, there was a lot in this chapter to evoke your feelings.
I like the question.
That was thought provoking. Yeah, it was good.
But it's a habit of mind, because when you start to say that all of anything is one way, then it's easy to start saying, so if all white people are the same, next thing you know, all men are the same. you know, and we start making these broad generalizations that make it more difficult to see the shades of gray. And so it's a habit of mind to train yourself how to see the person that's actually in front of you and not
Right.
all that they represent to you.
Right.
The forest. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I agree with Joel. In order to know different, you'll have to see different. So you have to open yourself up to meeting different people and be in different environments, whether they're white or they have other nationalities. And I think that's where a lot of the inclusiveness comes from. Because if that's all you know, then that's all you know.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
All right, thank you, Randie. Can we take a few minutes to do my favorite question, please?
Yes.
Which is, what black feminist concerns were raised in this week's reading? And of course, I have a couple of things I can give you off the top of my head.
Okay, let's hear it, Michelle.
Okay.
The first one, there was in one of the chapters, I think it was chapter 4, she mentioned that the reason that so many women went into teaching was because it was a way to help them avoid the lecherous advances of the white man. If they were in the classroom, they didn't have to be the chambermaid,
Right.
and dealing with all that BS. So I thought that I was aware, my mother was a teacher. I was aware there was, a period in history when loads of black women had gone into the teaching profession, but I had never connected it with, a way of controlling their body. And then the other thing that occurred to me, there was this guy, Gustav something, who said that education was going to make women useless as wives and mothers, and and the black women didn't, they didn't buy the hype. Um, in fact, they seemed to understand at that stage that if anything, education was going to make them useless as doormats. And so,
Yeah.
so I thought it was really, I thought it was exciting to see women taking control of their lives like that.
There was a Dr. Clark, who said a college education could destroy a woman's reproductive organs.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Crazy.
Yeah, they come up with some colorful stuff.
It sure did.
Actually, the educated women, it was a large percentage of them that did not have children, that did not get married.
Right.
So maybe it was messing with the reproduction system. Once you start reading that book, you start doing less of everything else but reading that book. And that is true. That's a fact of that. Because they decided not to get husbands, and I think it might have been 50%, a large amount did not have children during that time.
Well, only thing that I know is before the late 1800s and 1900s, white men used to be the teachers, and when black women started becoming teachers, the damn salaries went down. Wonder why?
Oh yeah.
That's the truth. I read that. I read that in the paper that white men, they were mostly teachers.
Yes.
And then when women entered into the workforce, the salaries drop.
They were secretaries too.
Yeah,
Yes,
that's
they
right,
do.
exactly.
Yes.
And now just imagine, look at the high-paying jobs. I don't care what it is. It can be plumbing, mechanics. If there is a majority man or white men doing it with little education, driving a bulldozer, he's making a hell of a lot more than a teacher.
Hmm.
And
Yes.
it's
agree.
because of gender. You know.
Hmm. Well, and it's like the fact that this is not a society that values the role of the mother or the homemaker. And
Exactly.
I say to Venita all the time that if we really understood, or as I was saying to you earlier, we don't seem to recognize how things are connected. And if we really understood the important work that mothers are doing, you know, if we understood that she who rocks the cradle rules the world, or
Rock
as you
what?
said,
Rock what cradle? Rock the cradle, baby. Rock the cradle. We know what cradle you're talking about, too.
or as you said, Joel, the hugging, if you don't get the hugging
Yeah,
between 0 and 2, it's a done deal.
that's it.
If we really recognize and value that work appropriately, mothers would be among the highest paid people in society.
You better believe it.
Yeah.
Domestic engineers. That's what I call
Yes.
Yeah.
the CEOs, the CFO, the COO, and every other O plus.
Hmm.
So,
Well, it's very stimulating.
okay. Any other feminism anybody wants to point out?
Well, I was impressed at the numbers and the variety of professions the black women had. Lawyers.
Yes.
Wow.
Mhm.
There's a
Mhm.
bunch of
We're doing it. And the other thing, I think it was there was a passage that talked about the inventions that were created to make homemaking easier
Yes.
worked in reverse for the black woman because she
Yes.
still was required to, keep the home together.
Mhm.
It didn't work for
Mhm.
her.
Mhm.
Well, they didn't know Ida, that's for sure.
Okay.
And they didn't know what was my girlfriend with Rufus? Last chapter.
Yes.
Last week. What was her name, Michelle?
Oh,
I forget her name.
I don't
I
know.
don't
Well, they
remember.
didn't know her either.
Oh, they didn't
But
know her.
I also like the grassroots organizing when they created the clubs, and then it turned out it was so many clubs that then
Yeah.
created different organizations.
yes, that was
But I
very
think
good.
that's what we need today, these small groups, and then coming together.
Mhm.
That
Yes.
Mhm.
was very empowering.
Yes. Hmm.
Rose was her name, Benita.
Rose?
Rose left Rufus.
Yes. Okay.
As
I'm looking
never
for
wants to
Rufus too.
truck with any man.
Yes.
Oh, that's right. That's right.
No, we didn't know Rose. They did not Rose. Rose is real life.
You have the book open to that whole sentence, Michelle?
Uh-huh.
Read it,
Could you read
Michelle.
it, please?
Oh, sure.
Okay.
Oh, Rose left Rufus. I never marries, she explained. 'Cause one spent enough for this nigga. Whew. After what I done for the massa,
Mm.
Williams vowed, I never wants to truck with any man.
Mm.
Sound like
The
she was saying,
Lord forgive this colored woman,
Yeah.
but he had to excuse me
Yeah.
and look for some others for the penicillin.
All right.
Ah, ah, ah.
Rose.
Where is that?
I didn't know she was not gonna do anything or become a switch hitter. I didn't know. I know she just went gonna be with a man. I know that.
Now that is an anthem
We
itself.
won't worry about that. She was
Now,
the hell out of here.
yeah,
Oh my
that's
God.
an anthem right there. That's an anthem. But she would not be
Yeah.
Rufus.
All right.
All right. Well, anything else, Randy?
Mine was the speech. That was a really great
Mhm.
Annie speech.
Yes.
Yeah.
No.
That was my moment. That carried me through the whole. That's really all I wanted to talk about tonight. But I know that's not how the sessions work. So
That's
yeah,
okay.
that was because feminism is also holding your fellow women accountable. And while white women could not have physically done something, because like Joel said, they were also countering abuse. But they created a platform to talk about their woes and how
Right, and like I'm saying about, always doesn't really apply to anything. And so while there were a great number of white women that were oppressed in that era, as there still are today, if you just think of it as today, you have the oppressed white women and you have Hillary Clinton. So you got this range, and you always do have this range. So
Yeah.
back then, the women that we were seeing, in this national club movement among white women and black women, these were the upper strata. These were, they had a higher degree of freedom and access than the masses.
Mm-hmm.
right. That was just my moment. I just love she did that.
Yeah.
She did that. Yeah.
Yes.
Really, Obama, that was really great.
Well, all right, everybody. Thank you so much for another wonderful evening. And Kim, I think you're up next week, right?
You like volunteering me. No, but I'm in April.
Who's next week? Georgette?
Yeah, I got it next week.
Oh, okay. Okay. Well, have a good week, everybody, and I'll see you then. Ready,
All right.
to
See everybody later.
Good night.
Good night, Kim.
Good night,
Good
Joel.
night,
Good
Randy.
night,
See you later,
everybody.
Michelle. Good
Good
night, John Boy.
Bye. Bye.
Good night. Yeah.
Bye.